Hello, everyone. Welcome to Conversations with Sekani, a podcast for people in their 20s who are trying to figure out life and not get lost along the way. Today's guest is Kevin KR Robinson, a real estate operator, entrepreneur, and best-selling author of Can't Break Me. After growing up in deep poverty in West Philadelphia and moving more than 18 times before adulthood, KR went on to build a portfolio of over 160 rental units. Today, he shares lessons on resilience, ownership, discipline, and building a stable future despite an unstable beginning. KR, welcome to Conversations with Sekani. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Well, I am so excited to be on your platform and share my story and the way I look at things.
All right. Okay. So, yes, thank you. So, KR, can you take us back to your childhood, right? What was life like growing up in West Philadelphia?
Yes, so it was crazy. I grew
Mm.
up in a household, seven siblings, raised on welfare because I had a half sibling that would come back and forth sometimes. So we were on welfare. We moved about 18 times before I turned 18. What I remember vividly is when I was in eighth grade and my report card, I got three D's and three B's and one C because I'm cute. And I was smoking weed and I was drinking from fourth grade to eighth grade. And we lived in a studio apartment in Philly. And we had a hot plate, no stove, a bathroom sheet, no bathroom door. We had a bathtub, no shower. And we had 15 people competing for space with rats and roaches and flies. And I remember my stepdad at the time because some of my siblings got pregnant 14, 15, 16 back to back teenage parents. And I remember my stepdad saying, "Don't be an F up like me and the rest of our family." And that really hit me hard because it was the first time an adult had told me something like that. And what he said is, "Do as I say, not as I do." And so I can see in his eyes the hopelessness and tiredness that was in his eyes. And I said, "You know what? I know if I keep going down this path, what the story will end like." And I said, I didn't want my story to end like that. So what I did is I started shifting my mindset and I embraced what I call the three D's, which I talk about in my book, Can't Break Me: desire, discipline, determination. And so I started to change the way I look at the world. And so it all started then and there when I was a knucklehead and I graduated from university high school, first in my class, valedictorian, class president, school president, debate captain, track captain, played some football, and got a full scholarship to Bowdoin College. So I shifted my mindset. It all started growing up in Philly with that uncertainty, with no margin of safety, and a lot of bad examples around me.
All right. Wow. So thank you, KR, for sharing your story with us today. It's one of resilience, right, and discipline. And I'm happy because people who would listen to this, who probably are not in the right place in their life now, would listen to it and know that, okay, there's a future awaiting me. That I could actually work hard to get to where I want to be. So your story
Mhm.
is actually an inspiration to many, I would say. So
Thank
thank
you.
you. Right. So now I want us to dive into what you're doing now, basically. So today you manage more than 160 rental units. Right. So tell us about the journey from the
Yes.
instability to becoming a successful real estate operator.
So what's fascinating is that even though we were dirt poor, my
Mm,
stepdad, he would do odd jobs where we would work on someone's kitchen or do different things. And he said the neighborhoods were going to change. He said someone's going to invest in these neighborhoods. They're next to schools and transportation. So he was a visionary. We all need visionaries.
mm,
So he planted the real estate seed inside me at a young age. And so what I
mm,
decided to do is to water that seed. And that's how I became successful as a real estate investor. So first thing I did is I bought my first rental unit in 2009. By
mm,
2018, I got to 9 rental units. By 2019, I got to 35 rental units. So I tripled my portfolio. By 2020, I got to 105. So during the pandemic, I bought 70 rental units. Now I'm at 160 plus. But it all started with this idea that success doesn't like speed. that things done well are done soon enough. And so what I did is I embraced what I call the three C's: intellectual capital, whether you're learning in the classroom or outside the classroom. You got to understand your real estate space or whatever industry you want to really master. And then I had to learn social capital, build relationships so I can affect change and do things that will move my projects forward. And then financial capital, understand how to access it, how to grow it. So how do you get loans? How do you budget? How do you manage money? How do you grow assets? So, and then I embrace what I call the three C's, which is you want to build a track record. So the riches are in the niches. Figure out what your niche is. I didn't do Monday Airbnb, Tuesday new construction, Thursday value add, Saturday I'm doing flipping properties. No, I stuck to value add. That's my specialty. Riches are in the niches, and I built that track record. And then what happened is I managed those relationships as well with contractors and lawyers and stuff. And then if you do the first two, manage relationships and build a track record, your reputation is going to precede you. And that's the third R. So I did the three D's, three C's, and three R's. That's how I was able to go from owning no rental units, having a negative net worth, to becoming a multimillionaire, owning apartment buildings as big as a 24 unit, 14 units, some 12 units. So that was my journey. This is my 17th year of being a real estate investor.
Wow. All right. That's a lot to unpack, I would say. I was trying to jot down some of those things. Like you said, intellectual capital, financial capital, and social capital. Right. I took
Yes.
note of it. And then you spoke about niches, and I couldn't
Riches.
take the
The
rest.
riches are in the
So,
niches. So figure out what your niche is and you'll
yeah.
become really rich versus jumping around trying to do 1,000 different things.
Wow. All right. Figure out what your niche is. Right. So now you've said this thing, and I would like for it to be more realistic, right? I know this is possible, but I know it wasn't easy, right? So
No,
were there any challenges you faced along the way?
absolutely. And that's exactly why I call my book Can't Break Me,
Right.
because you have to stay unbreakable.
Mm,
When I shifted my mindset in eighth grade and then graduated from University High School and got a full presidential scholarship, my brother, 1 year younger than me, 1 year younger, super close to me, he went off to prison for attempted murder, and he got sentenced 12 to 20 years. And
mm,
so I had to say, why me? What am I doing? Why did this happen to me? So I'm getting this great education and I have to stay focused. And while I'm at Bowdoin College doing well, my junior year, I get an internship on Wall Street. The weekend before, I take my family out, buy them washers and dryers, appliances, take them out to eat because it's a new chapter. Our life is improving. I get a phone. I call my mother. I tell her I got the offer for investment banking my junior year. She said, KR, you have to come home. I said, for what? She said, your sister, the father of your sister's children shot her 5 times in the face. So we had to go into hiding. And I had to decide, am I going to let this moment break me or am I going to build from here? And so throughout this entire journey of becoming successful on Wall Street, successful in real estate, I had to have that mental toughness, that resilience, not to give up, to believe that something is more worth it than not, to understand. That's why I talk about those three D's: desire. When you want more than everything, you want to have a better life. But what I realized, desire doesn't get you results. So therefore, you got to have that discipline, the routine, stick to the stuff day in and day out when no one's clapping, when you're all alone. But you got to have that determination, because determination is what's going to push you through when it seems much easier to quit, when it seems like you're getting setbacks and it seems like the world is taking more than it's giving you. And so that's
mm.
how I was able to push through despite all these challenges that I constantly had to go through throughout my last 17 years being a successful real estate investor.
All right. Oh, okay. So I wasn't expecting that one, I would say. But yes, you did it. You did not let it break you, right? That
Yeah.
is what is most important. Like you said, desire,
Yes.
determination, and discipline, right?
Yes.
Or if I'm to be realistic, I don't want to judge by other people, but personally, right, I don't even think I've gone through half of what you went through. But personally, I would have just quit. Like, I quit. I'm not doing it again, right?
Oh,
So,
absolutely. And I have family members who have
hmm,
become deeply depressed. Like they
hmm,
just don't know why do we always get the bad luck? Why do we always get the short end of the stick? And
hmm,
it immobilizes some people.
hmm,
And they say, you know what, I might as well not try. It's like every time I try, it's just it's too heavy to bear. And so
hmm,
I talk about in my book how some family members, all of my siblings had suicidal thoughts, were angry, were
hmm,
upset, some self-medicated themselves. So
hmm,
this is real, this is life. And so
hmm,
that's why I wrote the book, is I want people to know, look, I'm not perfect, none of us are perfect, we all go through stuff. But what
hmm,
we can do is stay unbreakable. And what we can do is go from this survival mode to structure to stability. And so it's very important that we understand that you don't have to stay stuck.
hmm. Do not stay stuck, right? Like you said, and go from survival mode to, ability,
Sure.
right? Instead of being stuck, right? Leave that
Yes, yes,
position you are. Right.
yes.
Exactly. Wow. Okay. So thank you, KR. There are so many people that would, I believe, are going to listen to this, and I believe this will change lives, honestly. So thank you. And yes, before I ask my final question today, I just want you to share with us, right? What are some practical lessons about money, right? That and
Mhm.
investing that you wish you had learned earlier?
Well, this is a lesson that I just think people really need to learn, regardless of
Mm,
what age you are.
mm,
Especially when you're interested in getting in the real estate business and you want to own real estate, especially in the United States,
mm,
make sure you understand the rules, understand what you can and cannot do. When you buy, and the reason why I bought my first several properties in my personal name is because there are benefits. You get a
mm,
lower interest rate if you buy in your personal name versus in an LLC. You actually, so if the LLC interest rate is 8%, in your personal name, it'll be like 6% or 6.5%. So it'll be lower. You also have down payment flexibility, where if you're a doctor, if you're a lawyer, you could put 0% down. They have programs like NACA, which will help you buy your first house. You don't have to put any closing money down or any down payment. It's based on character lending. So there are also all these grants. The other thing is that your insurance premium is lower if it's in your personal name than in the LLC. So what I tell people is that intellectual capital is so important. Make sure you really understand your craft, what opportunities are out there, what grants are out there, what programs are out there, so that you can become very, very successful. And a lot of people overlook this because they're like, oh, I got to find the deal, I got to find the money. No, what I want you to do is first find the knowledge. So I always tell people, especially in real estate, you want to have two out of three things: knowledge, the deal, and money. If you just have the knowledge and you have the deal, you will be able to find the money. If you just have the knowledge and you have the money, you'll be able to find the deal because your knowledge is teaching you how to find deals. So
mm,
that's what I will encourage someone just getting started to really zero in on.
mm. All right. So basically, knowledge is more important. Honestly, we
Yes,
need to get
two out of the
knowledge.
three. Yes, because when I grew up, I didn't have the money. So in the beginning,
Mm,
what was most important is that I get the knowledge. And once I got the knowledge, that taught me how to find the deals. And then once I
mm.
found the deal and the knowledge, I can get money from investors, money from lenders, money from whomever, because now they see me as someone who is very knowledgeable.
Exactly. All right. Wow. Thank you, KR. This has been deeply insightful, and I highly recommend your book, right? Can't Break Me. I think it's a book that especially young adults we need to read, to get clarity when it comes to life and just that motivation to want to do more, right? So that is what your book is going to help with, basically. So yes, and finally, right, looking ahead, what goals are you, excited about pursuing next? And what do you think, what would you want the listeners to take away from this conversation and also from reading your book?
So from reading my book, Can't Break Me, What you're
Right.
going to get is you have a blueprint on
Mm,
how to live a disciplined life to achieve greatness. So I teach you all the tricks and skills that I actually implemented in order to navigate a world of uncertainty to get to a world where it become more certain. And so I was once vulnerable. I was once afraid of my own schedule. I mean, my own afraid of my own shadow. But I start to
mm,
figure out I got to put together my own board of directors, people that can advise me as mentors and sponsors. I have to get in nurture environments, change my environment, change my friends. I have to become resourceful. So these are things that I lay out in the book and give you a roadmap so that you don't have to figure out everything on your own. So another thing I really want to stress in terms of my goal going forward is a lot of people talk about generational wealth. That's like I buy a house in 40 years, a family member can inherit it, they'll be happy. That's a north to south concept. What I like to concentrate on is what I call transformational wealth. It's an east to west concept where pretty much we have I start a business, I become really successful, then I can hire a family member. So I started the real estate business, convinced my
right.
brother with a high school diploma to get his real estate license. So when I do $1 million deal, he gets a 3% commission. That's $30,000. He and his wife and 6 children were able to buy a house outside of Philadelphia in a nice school district and a nice suburb. And then his in-laws, they work for me. They help with landscaping. They were able to buy a duplex. So now they're no longer renters. And then my stepmom works for me. My aunt helps with cleaning. My nephew helps with property management. So when my nephew and my brother walk by my property and say KAYR Apartments, he doesn't just tell his son, hey, look, we work for your uncle. They actually have ownership because I give them equity in my LLC and they don't have to contribute money because I'm transforming their lives today. So I think it's so important for me is to focus on that transformational wealth going forward. You said, what are my future goals? That's one of the things I'm very focused on.
Right. Wow. Transformational wealth. Right. I think I'm going to adopt that one actually. That sounds
Yes.
really interesting. I would adopt that one and put it in my daily life, basically. So yes, thank you, KR. And this brings me to the final segment of my podcast. I call it the rapid fire segment. You could either answer with a word or a phrase starting now. So what is one word you would describe your younger self?
Unbreakable.
Hmm. Wow. Truly, truly. All right. So, what is one word that describes you today?
Grateful.
Hmm. Okay. All right. So, what is a book that, changed your perspective on life?
I think the number one book I started writing a long time ago, my personal journal,
Hmm.
which is my book, Can't Break Me.
And break me. Right. Okay. So, own a home or own a business? Which do you prefer?
Own a business.
Hmm. Okay. All right. And yes, finally, how would you define success today?
I would define success today by looking at how much transformational wealth has been created around me.
Hmm. Okay. Transformational wealth. That's the key word right there. All right, KR, this has been deeply grounding, I would say. And finally, before you go, where can listeners get to, learn more about you, connect with you, and also get your book, right?
Yes. So you guys can reach me anywhere on social media at KAYR Motivates. So that's KAYR Motivates on
Mhm.
Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. You guys can actually go to my website, www.kayrmotivates.com. That's KR, KAYR motivates.com. And you can actually get a free copy of my prologue if you want to see my writing. But my book is available everywhere where you buy books.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to put the link in the show notes so it's easily accessible for listeners. And yes, talking about my listeners, I would say thanks for tuning into Conversations with Sekani. If this episode sparked something in you, just as it did in me, make sure to share to someone who you think might need this and also subscribe so you don't miss out on new episodes. Once again, thank you, KR. Do have a wonderful day ahead of you.
Thank you so much for having me on your platform. I look forward to staying in touch.
All right, take care.